A beautiful morning to you, my wonderful FreeMelon family. Welcome back to the FreeMelon Society. I'm Eli Martyr, and a little while ago I uploaded a video about drugs and landmines, okay? If you haven't seen that video, it's a lecture, then make sure to check out that lecture, because this is going to be a quick follow-up to that lecture. One of the comments that was left on that video I thought was very worthwhile in sharing with you guys. Great comment, and it's something that I hadn't directly addressed in the video. So if you haven't seen that video, then make sure to check that out first, and if you have seen it already, then let's just jump into it. So in the first lecture, we talked about drugs and landmines, all right? So we drew the association between things that have drug-like effects on your body and actual hard drugs, and how they're similar, a little bit different, but similar. And if you really want to reclaim the lost sensitivity of your palate and your system's relationship to what food actually tastes like, then it would behoove of you to remove landmines and remove substances with drug-like effects, to remove them from your diet and then recultivate a proper relationship with the actual taste of food. Okay, so that's what that first video was about. And one of the comments that was left here, well, I'll just read it to you. How about that? Why don't I just shut up and read it to you? Great video as usual. However, what you didn't mention that I think is usually true is that when people decide to eat some cooked vegetables or starches, they're almost always going to add salt, oil, fat to them, and thereby bringing in the landmines, right? Which is undeniably true. I think this is especially true with cooked starches, right? Most of which are essentially flavorless on their own. This is a big catch-22 with eating those things and trying to stay raw. Right. They come with the addictive strings attached, which ends up making it harder, even harder, to go completely raw consistently. And honestly, I find this to be true with salads as well, most of the time. How many people are eating salads with no salt, oils, fats in them? Very few. Fantastic comment. So absolutely, right? This catch-22 where we feel that we are addicted to and drawn to the cooked and adulterated and processed foods of human dietary culture. We feel that we are pulled to them and compelled to include them in our diets, right? So we have that one very observable phenomena on one hand, and on the other is that we don't usually feel called to those things unless we add the landmines to them. Thus, how can you extricate yourself from the tantalizing pull of these cooked, adulterated foods while still trying to slowly wean off of them? And it becomes very difficult because, typically speaking, you are always adding landmines to cooked meals, particularly the more intricately prepared cooked meals, right? So, how do we go about solving that little dilemma, okay? And I'll spell it out again. The dilemma whereby a person wants to transition to a cleaner, whole food exclusive diet, okay? Whether it's raw, completely raw, or whether there's some cooked elements in there, that's for your personal preference to negotiate. But the dilemma of trying to transition away from processed cooked foods while including a whole bunch of other clean foods in the diet, and keeping the cooked and processed foods to a minimum, but still by necessity requiring the use of all of the kind of adulterated landmines that we talked about in the video, right? So how do you get through that, right? And that's entirely the point, right? That is entirely the point. So the answer to that problem, okay, that little dilemma, is exactly the challenge that we are trying to break through. The point of removing the landmines is to bring you into a stark and immediate realization that the cooked and processed foods that you thought you had a pull towards is not real. It's synthesized. okay? It's a fabrication. It's contrived. That's the whole point. The thing that makes that side of the dietary world more tantalizing and more attractive is because they need to add elements that have these drug-like effects so that you will accept them. That's the very thing. So in removing them from your diet, the point is to bring you into an immediate realization of how you respond to those things when they're eaten without the landmines. Because you need to know what that's like. You need to taste those things without all of the adulterated seasonings and flavorings and whatnot, for you to start to reorient your sensitivities to what those things actually innately taste like. And that's the whole work that we're trying to do. Because if our goal in the end is resensitizing our system, and we are to learn something from how people on actual hard drugs recover, we know that in the initial period, when we do remove those landmines, there's going to be some sort of similar shocking adjustment period where your sensitivities are not accustomed to dealing with the actual flavors of those cooked and processed foods without the landmines to hide their true nature from your senses, right? So let's just say it's eggplant, cooked eggplant. Now eggplant, of course, requires a whole bunch of crap, usually, to make it taste really, really, really good. Right? Sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. I don't necessarily want to say crap, okay? When I say crap, I just mean a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of complicating flavors to the eggplant to make it taste like something really, really, really lavish. So what you would do was you would just cook eggplant just as is and let yourself get familiar with what that tastes like. Yes, it will be a departure. It will be like a shock to your palate at first. Like, whoa, this doesn't taste anything like I remember it, right? But that's entirely the point, right? That is the necessary period of resensitizing of your whole chemistry, of your whole oral chemistry and your mind-body connection to these foods. Okay, all that, we want to reorient that. And so it takes that couple days, right, to a week of just feeling what these foods taste like without all of the landmines associated with it. I thought that was just a great comment, because it's this catch-22. We don't even like eating all these cooked and processed foods without the landmines, right? Without those landmines, why would we even eat them? And yeah, why would we even eat them if we don't have all the oils and the salts and the seasonings and the yeasts and the fermented products and the soy sauces and all this, the misos and the tempehs and all this? Why would we even use any of those things if we can't add all of these rich concentrated flavors to them? And that's the point, right? It's like, you probably wouldn't. And that's what we're trying to do here. That's what we're trying to teach your mind and your body to do. Start to accept natural flavors into your system. Because when we don't do that, when we take all of those foods with the landmines, we're inviting into our system deception. Okay? What we don't want to do is we don't want to admit of any imposture. Okay? We don't want to surrender our sensitivities to the affectations of these landmine foods. What I'm saying is that these things are tricks, okay? They're deceptive. Affectation means to give a false impression of. Let's just say I wanted to portray myself as like a really mean, violent, tough guy, right? Maybe I'd walk around with a scowl on my face and I would just give people cut eye all the time. But that's just an affectation, right? I'm giving a false impression of myself. It's not real, it's contrived, okay? So what I'm saying is these foods, right, they're giving a false impression of themselves. They are affecting how actual food should be received by your body. So it's a trick, right? So we want to admit of no tricks. And when we can admit of no tricks, then we bring ourselves closer and closer to resensitizing our palates and having that harmonious relationship with our food that was intended by God. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for commenting. All your comments have been wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed that video. And the answer to this comment that I just read for you is, yeah, that's exactly the point, right? It's a catch-22 because we want to bring you to that stark realization that wow, without all of those things, I'm not really even that attracted to those foods. And that's entirely the point, right? That's what happens when we are trying to reform our bodies, reform our minds, and reorient to the proper relationship with food. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the FreeMelon Society if you like videos like this. Make sure to give some comments if you have any other questions or just general comments you'd like to share with me. And we'll see you on the next one. Okay? Love you very much. Mwah. Take care, guys.